Hi guys, welcome back to Ladenza Crochets. In this tutorial we're making this dress, which is an extension of a skirt I made a few months ago. If you would like to watch the tutorial to the skirt, kindly check out the description box for a link to the skirt tutorial. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and let's get right into this one. These are the materials that you're going to need. A medium weight yarn, I'm using color yellow, a 2.5 millimeter crochet hook, a pair of scissors, at least 2 stitch markers, an elastic band. I would advise that the elastic band is the same color as the yarn, but because I only have the black one, I'm going to work with it. A darning needle, a sewing needle, and some thread. Take your bust measurement, mine is 34, divide it by 2, I'll get 17. Then take 17 plus 2, I'll get 19. And so my starting chain is going to be of length 19 inches when slightly stretched. So that means if your bust is say 40, you're dividing by 2 to get 20. Then you're taking 20 plus 2, you're working 22. If your bust is 32, divided by 2, 16. 16 plus 2, 18. So get that measurement and let's get into the tutorial. We begin with a slip knot and make a chain that is equals to that length that you've gotten. Mine is 17 plus 2, which is 19. So I'm going to chain 59 first. After my 59 chains, I'm going to measure this to determine whether I've gotten to 19 inches. So get the measuring tape. And you're measuring these while stretching. So when I stretch this out, it gets me to 18 inches, 18 right here. So I'm going to add 2 more chains. Measure again. That is 61 now. You want to make an odd number of chains, because afterward it's going to get to an even number. After adding 2 and stretching, it gets to 19. So 62 chains are giving me 19 inches. Now, it's actually 61, not 62, 61 chains. Now I'm going to hold the last chain and chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That chain 3 will act as our first double crochet. And so we yarn over, go into the chain that we're holding and place a double crochet into that chain, and those are 2. We're going to place 1 double crochet into every chain till we get to the end of row 1. Now, because my starting chain was 61, at the end of row 1, my double crochets should be 62. And that's why I mentioned that you should start with an odd number of chains so that it changes to an even number after the first 3 chains. So go on, place 1 double crochet into every chain, and let's meet at the end of row 1. I'm done with row 1, and this is what I have. Next, we're going to divide the number of double crochets that we have by 2. Mine are 62 by 2, that will be 33. Then I'll take 33 minus 2. So I'm going to work 29 double crochets on one side. So chain 3 and turn. The chain 3 acts as our first double crochet, and therefore we're not going to place a stitch into this first stitch because we already have it. Yarn over, go into the next stitch and place a double crochet. Yarn over, go into the one that follows and place a double crochet. So 62 divided by 2 is 31. 31 minus 2 is 29. So I'm working 29 double crochets. These are 3. I'll work 26 more to get to 29. I have my 29 double crochets. Then the next stitch is going to be a single crochet. So go into that next stitch, place a single crochet, and place 3 more for a total of 4 into the next 3 stitches. So that's 2, 3, and 4. Then change to double crochets. Now we have 29 double crochets remaining on this end. So each double crochet, we'll get a double crochet for a total of 29 double crochets. I'm coming to the end of the row, and I just place my single crochet into the second last stitch. The last single crochet is on top of the chain 3. Make sure that you don't forget it. Place your last double crochet there, and there we're done with row 2. You're going to chain 3, 2 and 3, then turn to begin row 3. Again, we begin row 3 with double crochets. This is our first double crochet, so the next stitch gets a double crochet, and we work a total of 29, just like we did with row 2. Begin with the first 29 double crochets. After the 29 double crochets, the next 4 stitches will be single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now change to double crochets and work 1 double crochet into every stitch to the end of row 3. Now this is the row that we're repeating. You're just working the first double crochets, then 4 single crochets in between, and end with the last double crochet. So mine are 29, 4, 29. Yours could be 30, 4, 30. So keep going, and I'm going to work this row repeats until I have the length of the top that I want. So it depends with where you want your top to go up to. If you want it on your torso, you'll work fewer rows. If you want it on your waist, you'll work more rows. So keep going with the rows. I'll meet you once I'm done with the full length of my top part of the dress. After 23 rows, this is what I have, and my top part is done. I'm going to measure the length of the top. Now, when you're measuring the length of a crochet outfit, you don't stretch out. You just measure it as it is. So right here, my length is 11 inches, as you can see. So if you want 13, 15, keep going with the rows. Now, after you're done with that length with the top, now it's time to join these 2 ends together to start working on the skirt part of the dress. And to do that, you're going to measure the 2 inches that we added. We added 2 inches, and I'll count the number of stitches that give me 2 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That is 8 stitches. The total number of my stitches is 62, so I'll take 62 minus 8. 62 minus 8, that is 54. 54, and so I'll chain 54. 1, 2. I have my 54 chains ready, so I'll turn my top like this to the other side, just like this, and then I'll get the first chain right here and slip stitch. Make sure that your chain is not twisted, so slip stitch right there, then chain 1. Grab your pair of scissors and cut off the yarn, and then fasten. So there we have the top done. It's time to start working on the skirt now. Now after joining like this, we're going to count 10 stitches from this point. It depends with whatever side you want your skirt detail to be on. I want mine to be on this side. If you want yours to be on the other side, you can count from this side. I'll get a stitch marker. Now count 10 stitches from this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then mark that stitch. That's my 10th stitch. As you can see, my stitches are visible from this side, so that means when I'm working, I'll start working from this point. I'll grab my yarn and get the point where the stitch marker is, the stitch after the stitch marker, that is, sorry. So this stitch, put my hook through and grab my yarn, then chain 1 at that point. Chain 1. Into that stitch, you're going to place a single crochet, then place a single crochet into the next stitch. Those are 2, and place a third one. 3. Now all the other stitches, we're going to give them a double crochet until we have 1 stitch remaining before the stitch marker. So 1 double crochet into every stitch. I'm working over my tail just to ensure that I will not have so many ends. As usual, you know I work over my tails to reduce the number of tails that I have to weave in at the end of the project. Now I've gotten to the point where the single crochets were, and we're no longer going to work the single crochets there. We continue with double crochets. So all these stitches are going to get a double crochet. Once you get to this corner, continue working double crochets onto the chain. So each of the chains that we made is going to get a double crochet, and I'll still work over my tail. After placing a double crochet onto the chain, we continue with the double crochets onto the other stitches. And you're placing a double crochet till you have 1 stitch remaining before the stitch marker. Now at this point, that stitch gets a single crochet, and the stitch where the stitch marker is will also get a single crochet. Then we finish, or we complete the round by, it's a row, we complete the row by slip stitching onto the first single crochet that we began with, chain 1 and turn. So right here we have 3 single crochets and 2 single crochets onto this other side. In total there are 5. Chain 1 and turn to begin the next row. The next row you start with a single crochet. So into this stitch has two gaps. This is one that is not very visible, and this is one at the back. So I like to work onto this one to ensure that I don't place 2 stitches right there, because if you work on this one, when you come into the end, you might end up increasing a stitch right here, and that's not good. So place the stitch right here. Right there is where I place my first single crochet. And so that means I won't place another one here. I'll move on to the next stitch and place a single crochet. The next stitch is a double crochet. All the other stitches are double crochets. So work double crochets into every stitch until you have 3 stitches remaining, and those last 3 stitches will get a single crochet each. So once you get to where the single crochets are, you're going to place 3 single crochets into the last 3 stitches, 2 and 3, then slip stitch on top of the first single crochet to complete row 2, chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. We begin row 3 in the first stitch, and like I mentioned, we are not working right here, we are working here. So into that stitch, place a single crochet. Now there are 3, so 1, 2, and 3. Then change to double crochets. Work double crochets until you have 2 stitches remaining. Into the last 2 stitches, you'll place single crochets and complete row 3 with a slip stitch. Now I'll work row 3, then I'll come back and show you how to work row 4. In row 4, we're going to work differently because we're going to start increasing in order to get to the hip measurement. So let's meet at the end of row 3. After row 3, this is what I have right here. Now we're going to mark these points, these corners. So you're just going to get a stitch marker and mark the stitch that corresponds to this corner. So I'll mark that stitch, and then on the other side you also mark this stitch right here, mark it. The marked points are the points of increase when we want to increase in order to get to our hip measurement. Next, we're going to measure the hip measurement that we have right now, so that we know how many inches we'll need to increase in order to get to our desired hip measurement. Now, so I'm just going to measure this, and because it's folded into 2, we're going to measure and multiply by 2. Now when you're measuring the hips, you stretch a little bit, and when I stretch this, it gets me to 17 by 2, that's 34. The hip measurement that I'm working is 44, and therefore because I'm at 34, I'll increase till I get to 44 inches. We begin row 4. I've already chained 1, so I'm turning my work. On this side I have 2 single crochets, so I'll begin on this side at this first stitch with a single crochet, and then the second single crochet, then change to double crochets, and we work double crochets till we are 1 stitch before the stitch marker. In that stitch before the stitch marker, place 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. That's our first increase. Remove the stitch marker. Into the part where the stitch marker was, place just 1 double crochet and mark that stitch. Continue marking the stitch. Then the next stitch is going to get 2 double crochets. So basically what we're doing is we're increasing in the stitch before the stitch marker and in the stitch after the stitch marker. Then we continue with just 1 double crochet till we get to the stitch before the other stitch marker. So you're working 1 double crochet all the way till you get to the stitch. I'm at the stitch just before the stitch marker, and so place 2 double crochets there. Remove the stitch marker. Into the stitch that had the stitch marker, place just 1 double crochet and mark the stitch again. The stitch after gets 2 double crochets for an increase. Then all the other stitches till we get to the single crochets, we'll get just 1 double crochet now. I'm at the single crochet point, so 3 single crochets to the end and slip stitch, chain 1, turn. We begin with 3 single crochets, So we have the first one right here, the second, and the third. Then change to double crochets, work till you get to 1 stitch before the stitch marker. In the stitch before the stitch marker, place 2 double crochets. For that increase, pull out the stitch marker, place 1 double crochet, just 1, then mark the stitch again. The stitch after gets 2 double crochets, then all the other stitches, just 1 double crochet. You're going to work like this, and then you're going to work an increase on these points on the other side, just the same way we've worked on this end. Then the row that follows will not have an increase. So we are increasing in 2 rows, then the third one, no increase. Increase in 2 rows, the third one, no increase. But you continue marking that point. Those 2 points that have stitch markers, even when you're not increasing, you have to continue marking them. So I've already increased in the second row. The third one will have no increase. Then I'll go on increase in another 2. The third one, no increase. Let me work this row, then I'll come back and show you what I mean with no increase. But I think that should be clear for everyone. Like, no increase means each stitch just gets 1 stitch. So where there is a double crochet, you only place 1 double crochet. Where there is a single crochet, you only place 1 single crochet. Right now I'm in row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm in row 5, so I'm increasing in row 4 and row 5. Row 6 will have no increase. Then I'll increase in row 7 and 8. Row 9 will have no increase. And I'll keep going till I have my hip measurements. This is what you should do until you stretch out your work and you've hit your hip measurements. Let me complete row 5, then we'll do row 6, and I'll let you continue till you have that desired hip measurement. This is row 5, remember, this is row 5. So into the stitch before the stitch marker, place 2 double crochets, pull out the stitch marker, place 1 double crochet into that stitch, mark the stitch, place 2 double crochets after the marked stitch, continue with 1 double crochet into every stitch till you have 2 stitches remaining. Place a single crochet into the second last stitch and a single crochet into the last stitch, then slip stitch on top of the first single crochet of that row, and we're done with row 5. We're done with row 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 6. Like I've mentioned earlier, row 6 is a row with no increase at all. So every stitch gets 1 stitch. You start with a single crochet, then another single crochet, change to double crochets till you get back to this point. So just 1 double crochet in every stitch now. At the stitch marker, you will pull it out and place just 1 double crochet, then mark it. Mark that stitch. So continue marking the marked stitches, but place just 1 stitch. I'll meet you once I've hit my hip measurement, because from here on you're just repeating 2 rows of increase, 1 row of no increase, 2 rows of increase, 1 row of no increase. Let's measure this, see where we are at this point. We were at 17 after increasing in 2 rows. Let's see, we are at 19, 19 inches when stretched. So my hips are at 38 and I want to go up to 43. So I'll keep going and I'll let you know how many rows I'll have done to get to my desired hip measurements. If you're working 38 inches at this point, you'll have hit your hip measurements. If you're working 40, you might need to increase in the next 2 rows and you'll be done. So keep going till you hit your hip measurement. I've worked up to row 13 and this is what I have, and at this point I've hit my hip measurement. This is the back part of the dress and I'm just going to show you how to measure this. So get your measuring tape, place it at that point without stretching. As you can see, I'm at 20. I want to get to 22 because my hip measurement is 44. So I'm at 22 and from this point on we don't need the stitch markers anymore. Just pull them out. And we're going to be working 1 stitch in every stitch, just 1, no increase, until I have a skirt length of 15 inches. So right now I'm at 7. I'll work till I get to 15. Then after I get to 15, I'll show you what to do next. If you want a shorter skirt, you can do up to 13 or 12. It all depends with the length of the skirt that you want. From the 15 inches, I'll do an extension, but then from the extension, we'll have the slit extending. So I worked, let me show you what I did. I did the first 3 rows, then increased in rows 4 and 5. Row 6, there was no increase. Then I increased in 7 and 8. Then 9, no increase. Increased in 10 and 11, no increase in 12, 13 and 14. Actually, I'm in row 14. So I just did the last increase and now I'm just going to work with no increase. The only part that you need to remember is this part at the front where we have the single crochets. All the other stitches will be double crochets. So I'm chaining 1 and turning my work. Then begin with a single crochet into the first stitch, a single crochet into the next, and a single crochet into the third one, then change to double crochets. All the other stitches will be double crochets. When I'm coming to the end, I'll end with 2 single crochets and I'll keep going till I get my length. I'll meet you once I get the length of the skirt before the slit. At this point, I've done a total of 41 rows on the skirt part, and we're going to measure from this point all the way to the bottom. And when I do, I get to almost 19 inches. I set out to do 15, and then I realized that 15 was a bit short, so I went up to 19 inches. On the front part, on this gathered part right here, the length is around 11 inches. So this part, you should consider this part and ensure that you get a length that is okay with you, depending on how high above your knee, not your knee, above your thigh, you want your slit to begin. So if you're not satisfied with this length, if 11 is still too short, you need to continue increasing the number of rows in order to lengthen this part, because you don't want it to be too high. Then we're going now to do something different. We're going to work on the slit part. So after completing the row 41, what I'll do is put my hook back from this side, put my hook back in place and chain 1, then turn. Now after turning, we start reducing. Now into this, we're not going to work in the first stitch, we're going to work into the next stitch. Put your hook through, grab a loop, put your hook through the next gap or the next stitch and grab a loop and yarn over, pull through the 3 loops. We've done a reduction right there. After that, we're going to work double crochets until we have 2 stitches remaining. I have the 2 stitches remaining, this one, and at this point I'm going to work a reduction. I'll put my hook through the second last stitch, grab a loop, put it through the last and grab another loop. I have 3 loops, so yarn over and pull through or chain 1. Now here we're not going to be connecting the way we've been connecting. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We are no longer connecting the rows. At the beginning we start with a reduction. Put your hook through the first stitch and grab a loop. Put your hook through the second stitch, grab another loop, yarn over, pull through all the 3. Then start double crochets and work a double crochet into every stitch until you have 2 stitches remaining. At the end, you're going to combine the 2 stitches together for a reduction, and then you're going to start to chain 1 and turn. And you'll start the next row the same way we've started this one and end with a reduction. So let me do that, and then we can continue from there. I'm coming to the end of this row, and you're going to work till you have 2 stitches remaining. So right here I have this stitch and this other stitch that is not very visible. So what you do is put your hook into the second last, grab a loop, put your hook into the next one and grab another loop. You have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all the 3, chain 1 and turn to begin the next row. Again, we begin with a reduction and end with a reduction. So you're going to put your hook through the first stitch, grab a loop into the second, grab a loop, yarn over, pull through all the 3, then continue with double crochets into every stitch until you have 2 stitches remaining. At the end, you're going to reduce the same way we've reduced in the previous row, and you're going to keep going until you have the full length of the skirt that you want. Now I'll do a few more rows, then I'll come back and show you how many rows I'll have done to achieve the full length of my dress. I went on to do a total of 11 rows from this point, and as you can see, that's the slit part of the dress. Then at the end I just chained 1 and cut off the yarn. Now the main part of the dress is done. As you can see, we are done with the skirt part. Now whatever is remaining is to attach the straps that will go to the shoulders, and then we also attach the elastic band that's supposed to draw the waist together, because at the waist part we worked with the bust measurements and therefore it's going to be wide. So we're going to need to attach the elastic band so that we can have our waist drawn together. Have the elastic band, and it should be a third of this back part. So this back part, the length is 17 when stretched, and so I'll take 17 divided by 3, and that should be around 6 inches approximately. So for my elastic band, I'm going to measure 6 inches, and whatever I have here is already the 6 inches. So what you do is get one end. I'm going to sew it using the black yarn because my band is black, but like I mentioned earlier, if you can get a band that is the same color as your yarn, then that would be good. I'm going to attach it from the inside of the dress, right there. So just sew it in place. Make sure you're sewing at the corner part, is right here, the corner part of the back part of the dress. Color black is not the most appropriate color, so go with something that is almost the same color as your yarn, or exactly the same color. That is, if you can find it. So if you can find a band that is the same color as your yarn, that would be good. So I'm just sewing the band in place at this back part of the dress. Then I'll just tie a knot. Then cut off the thread at that point. Then I'm going to get the other end of the band and the other corner of the dress, right there and start sewing. Then I'll tie a knot like I've done on the other side. And cut off the tail. Next, we're going to work over the band, but before then, we're going to attach the straps. So now, turn your work. And we're going to start with the strap on this end. So get your yarn and double your strands. I'll start with a slip knot and chain 100. I have the 100 chains, and after this we're going to cut one end of the two strands. So just cut one of the strands off, leave a tail like this. Then we're going to get this end and attach the strap right there with a slip stitch. Put your hook through, yarn over and grab a loop and pull it through. Right there, the strap is attached. Now we're going to work on this side using the longer strap and working over the shorter tail right here. So in each of the rows, we're working on the double crochet rows, and on each of the rows is going to get two single crochets. So I've already placed the first single crochet into the first row, so I'm going to place a second one into the next row, place 2 single crochets. Remember, we are working over this tail. Into the next one, 2 single crochets. Into the next row, 2 single crochets, and each of the double crochet rows is going to get 2 single crochets. So do that till you get to the corner right here. So we are in between the next 2 stitches. I've already placed the first single crochet into the first row, so I'm going to place a second one into the next row, place 2 single crochets. Remember, we are working over this tail. Into the next one, 2 single crochets. Into the next row, 2 single crochets, and each of the double crochet rows is going to get 2 single crochets. So do that till you get to the corner right here. I'm at the corner, and now we turn to the back part, and at this point we're going to start working over the bands. So what you do is go into the corner stitch and make sure that your hook goes below the band like this. Grab a loop in between the next 2 stitches, put your hook through and make sure it goes through to the other side below the band. Then pull a loop and complete a single crochet. So we are working over the band. Into the next gap, do a single crochet, and into the next one. And we're going to continue working into the next gap and ensuring that your hook goes below the band and completing a single crochet. Do this till you get to the corner. After working over the rubber band up to the corner, this is what we have. Then we're going to continue to this other end, and we're going to work the same way we worked on the other side with 2 single crochets into every double crochet row till we get to the top part of the dress where we need to attach another strap. Once you get to the last double crochet at this corner, grab the other strap, the other strand, because we're going to work the strap and you want it to be doubles, to have the double strands. Now into that last double crochet, I've only placed one single crochet, so I'm going to put my hook through to place the second double crochet, but then when I'm grabbing my yarn, I'll grab it together with the other strand, the second strand. Like this, and chain one. Then these tails that are hanging, I'm going to be working over them, so I'll just put it over the hook and chain. That is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I'll continue up to 100. I'll just cut off these ones, these tails that are remaining here. After my 10 chains, just trim them off, and then continue to 100. Once you have your strap of 100 chains, you'll cut off the yarn, pull it through, fasten, make a knot on that end, and make sure that the knot is very close to the stitches. Tighten it, then cut the tail that remains at this point. Don't cut too close, like that. Do the same on the other end. Then cut. Now whatever remains are the tails, and I think I only have this tail at the bottom. Now you're going to get your yarn needle and then weave it inside the stitches. Once you're satisfied it's well hidden, cut off the tail that remains. And there we are done with our dress. So if you've liked the tutorial, please leave a like on it, leave a comment too, subscribe if you're not subscribed, kindly share with your friends if you enjoyed the tutorial, and see you in the next one.